You may be wondering who I am. I don't want to give out too much information, so I'm just gonna say I'm an old friend of Christopher, and he used to always talk about, having these mythical type friends. One being like Pooh Bear, Eeyore, Piglet, etc. And honestly, a lot of people never believed him. I thought it was just a joke due to the fact that his father would often say that he would play with these toys in his imagination because he had stuffed animals. Until one day, whenever he went into the woods, I sort of followed him. And I ended up finding that the Winnie-the-Pooh and all them were indeed real. They weren't just something of his imagination made up. No. They were all real. Winnie-the-Pooh, Piglet, Eeyore, Kangaroo, Tigger, Owl, Rabbit. There were so many. Just so many. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you there is a story. And the Disney version was only the beginning to this story. It never finished the story because of the fact of how violent it got. The idea was whenever Christopher and his dad started making books and episodes and shows about Winnie-the-Pooh and them, they gave their copyrights and stuff to, Disney. And Disney was writing these stories. They were writing all the kid-friendly ones with the ones that y'all come to love and know today. However, this wasn't it. I know that in Winnie-the-Pooh from Disney's version, they're always just these lovable little plushies and stuff like that. But it escalates from there. And that's where Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey begins to tell a truer story. You see, one day, Christopher decided that since they were just stuffed animals, he was going to just leave them and go to college. He figured they'd be fine. But something about the 100-Acre Woods made it where not just were they stuffed animals, but they had to eat and stuff like that. But most importantly, they had to eat. There was no could, no when they wanted to. It was something they had to do. And Christopher Robin never realized this. So when he left, oh no, everything went to chaos. It wasn't long after, only being like a week or two, that Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet began getting feral. They had no food to really eat anymore because Christopher Robin wasn't bringing it to them. They were going insane. That's when one day they decided to get the idea they had. They were going to kill Eeyore. They were going to eat him. And if they had to, they were going to kill all their friends and eat them. And at first, they hated the idea. But when it comes to starvation, you don't have much of a choice. They ended up succeeding with their idea of killing Eeyore. But doing this, they grew angry of Christopher Robin. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to find him. And they would make traps and plots, and they would do everything they can so that when he came back, they would torture him, just like how he tortured them by abandoning them. But however, because they chose to eat Eeyore, not just were they mad at Christopher Robin, but they had a thrill. They loved hearing their friend scream in pain. They wanted to kill the rest. They wanted their friends to suffer. But they did not want to kill each other. So they teamed up. They decided they would kill all of them. first they went to Owl and chopped down his tree, causing him to go into some sort of coma by how he hit his head when that tree fell. Then they went towards Rabbit, and they killed him in his own garden. But luckily, Kinga, she had saw what they were doing to Rabbit, so she took Rue and ran far away in the 100-acre woods. While they were being safe, Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet ended up getting Tigger to team up with them as well. And while them three were now on the hunt for other animals, Kinga was trying to make a new house somewhere far away to keep Rue safe. Meanwhile, on one terrible, terrible night, Rue, not knowing why they had to move, wanted to go back to the old house. He knew about Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet acting feral, but he didn't know they were killing. He wanted to find Eeyore and Tigger and find Christopher Robin so that they knew where he lived. So while his mom was asleep, Rue, little old Rue, ran out of the house. And eventually, upon finding something that said R.I.P. Eeyore, which he didn't understand, he knew something wasn't right. Why was there a sign saying R.I.P. Eeyore? He didn't know what R.I.P. meant, but Eeyore never had a sign with his name on it, unless he made it. It was from there that he decided to look for Tigger, and that's when he met his gruesome end, due to the hands of Tigger. And then, how do I put it? Well, Christopher Robin ended up returning years later with his girlfriend, and he, in short terms, tried to show her his childhood friends, and that's when they began their hunt on him. At first they succeeded, and they trapped him and were torturing him and even killed his girlfriend. But that's when I came into the story again. You see, one thing I never liked about the 100-acre woods was how off it seemed. Even though it was magical, these things that were plushies were no longer plushies. They were escalating into something more. They went from things that just had to walk and talk to things that had to walk, talk, live. They had to do everything to survive. I stopped visiting this place due to that. But now, when I heard Christopher was returning, I had to find him when it was just a couple days later, and he never came back. Upon going there, he was chained up. He was chained with his hands tied, and he was hanging from his hands. He had, I don't know how to put it. He had bruises all over his body. He had cuts all over his body. And his mouth was, it had so many things in it, like something was trying to keep him from talking. When I freed him and helped him get back on his feet and helped get the stuff out of his mouth, that's when he told me that Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet were trying to kill and torture him. So I tried to get out with him, but that's when Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet started following us. Upon our grand escape back into the human world, we accidentally showed Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet the way into the human world. Upon this, me and Christopher were in a hospital to help him heal. But in the meantime, Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet decided they were going to go to Christopher's childhood house. From there, they would end up attacking a group of girls that would eventually all have to suffer some type of fate. And as the story continued with them trying to survive, and Christopher Robin ended up getting better, This led to a fierce battle between Christopher Robin and Winnie-the-Pooh, a friend-to-friend fight. As me, the girls, and Piglet all stood back in amazement for this long fight, it ended up being where they both won. Winnie-the-Pooh, he didn't die, but he didn't win. And same with Christopher Robin. Neither one died. But because of how the story plays out, I can't tell you exactly how it plays out, or y'all won't be surprised by the ending. But all I know is even though they both live in the ending of this new horror movie that tells the rest of the tale, be aware, that doesn't mean that something bad won't happen to them in the other sequels that there will be. And that's why I have to ask to you, the viewer, my brave volunteer, since Winnie the Pooh and Piglet are back and are trying to hunt me and Christopher Robin now, I ask that you help us and try to fight back and end this once and for all before it escalates any further.